people that keeps God's commandments will prosper in the land, which is pretty neat. But conversations about it often go something like this. Wow, that sounds great. Are you prospering? Yeah, so it turns out that we are not currently prospering. Since 2023, 11 stakes have closed in the Salt Lake Valley, and this decline shows no sign of stopping. With the decline of the church's membership and its standards has come all kinds of crime and disorderly behavior from the new arrivals. This has rendered entire neighborhoods basically uninhabitable if you want to be an ordinary person raising children, which is one of several reasons why it costs twice as much now to buy a home as it used to, why we're all getting priced out of living in our own communities and starting our own families. Declining church and financial hardships means it's also harder for us to get married. We can see this in the church's recent announcement to increase the age of YSA to 35. And I mean, it is absolutely insane that 35 should be considered young adult. And with later marriages also comes fewer babies, which, to his great credit, President Oaks is very concerned about. Fewer babies grow up to be fewer adult members, and we're back to the beginning of this self-reinforcing downward spiral we're all caught in. This doesn't look like prospering in the land to me. And if obedience brings prosperity, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say a lack of prosperity indicates a lack of obedience. And look, I'm just a guy with a YouTube and an opinion. I don't have the authority to tell you that you are turning your back on God, or that we as a church are turning our backs on God. If you want to think this is fine, because nobody at General Conference has looked you in the eye and told you the specific behaviors you need to change, fine. But if you already know there's something wrong and are trying to figure out what it all means, then I might suggest that the problem is worldliness. The ordinary Latter-day Saint these days is too worldly to prosper. And before you say, oh, the problem is being worldly, that's what people like you always say. I think it's fair to say that all the problems I just listed off within our communities are the same exact problems that everyone else out in the world is having. Churches all over the world are declining in membership. Life is becoming unsafe and unaffordable. People are getting married and starting families late, or often not at all. If we were God's particular people the way that we claim we are, maybe we'd have some problems, but wouldn't you expect there to be some difference between our problems and everybody else's problems? Sadly, that's not the case. Instead, we're doing worldly things and we're getting worldly results. For example, the purpose of money is for building wealth, and the purpose of wealth is for building the kingdom of God. Buying assets, controlling them, and deploying them for good purposes. The world would teach that money is for spending, and how often do we see faithful members of the church frittering away their money, giving it to big companies who hate us for being Christian and sustaining the family proclamation? That doesn't sound like obedience. The church teaches that family is eternal, and therefore success in family is really the only success that matters, with things like career and money just being tools. But the world teaches instead that family is an optional cherry on top of career and financial success. And we see people even here in Utah delaying marriage, delaying children, until they get where they want in the rat race and until supposedly perfect circumstances happen. And we don't even act like we believe that the church is true and that we constitute, as a community, the kingdom of God on the earth, because we as a church barely do anything to maintain that community. Instead, we let others do the hard work, and we've confined our church activities to primarily recreational activities. Definitionally, these are breaks from your real life, and therefore not what's important no matter how much you say they are. This reduction of the church to a recreational activity is, I think, where the disobedience comes from. Because prospering in the land isn't magic, it's discipline and obedience to God's commandments. It's taking seriously the promise we've all made at baptism to care for each other as a community, to create and maintain the conditions, political, economic, social, and spiritual, that allow God's people to thrive. This is our job. And we gave that responsibility up. We handed it to big global systems of government, economy, media, and education, and we stopped prospering because we collectively broke our baptismal covenants. And as we suffer for our reliance on these worldly systems, people often discuss them as failing, but I believe they are working as intended. You, as a normal Latter-day Saint, are simply not the beneficiary. Conveniently enough, this doesn't have to be you. They might be able to take away your money, but they can't take away your agency. They can't make you do things the world's way. You can take charge of your circumstances and your community and start getting the results that you want. All you need to do is stop doing things the world's way. Latter-day Saints have prospered in the land before. We crossed the plains, made the desert blossom, built great cities from nothing, and there's nothing stopping you from doing it again today.